Hi everyone, welcome back to APO Sports as we continue the projections for the 2025 Indiana Fever roster. Today we are talking about Damiris Dantas, and for anyone who has been following my channel for a while now, uh, knows that Damiris Dantas is one of my favorite players, one of the players that last season I just kept campaigning for her to get more minutes, and for a good reason, right? Like I believe I had good reason to argue and to fight against Christy Sides and whoever was making the decisions to not give her any playing time. I was on that train. I was on that train pretty early on, and I will not be talking about her journey to the Indiana Fever. I will not be talking about just the same that I have been doing with the other players, because the newer or the players that are new to this current team, I've been doing more of a background on their journey. Not going to be doing the same with Dantas. I already did a player spotlight on her, so if you're curious about how she ended up being a member of the Indiana Fever, please check out the link above. What we're going to do is we're going to get straight into the numbers, but I also want to do a quick lineup. One of my favorite things to do is the lineup comparisons, and then do the advanced stats as far as like which lineup combinations have gotten more of a positive net rating, both in offensive rating and defensive rating, and then overall. So we're going to be taking a look at that and then doing the projections. But this is another one, probably the final one of all the projections, that is super hard to do, only because of that bottleneck that exists in that Indiana Fever bench, just with the abundance of talent that they have. So let's check out some of the numbers real quick. Okay, so here we are, and just to kind of showcase how I arrive at this tool, in case you're ever curious and want to do the same. Um, Another thing that I'll just plug in real quick. So when we start the season, the start of the actual regular season, I am going to be doing lineup evaluation videos every 5 games, just to kind of keep track of which lineup combinations are working out the best, who seems to be thriving better on the floor, and which combinations are simply not cutting it and struggling against most matchups. The interesting thing about this tool here, is that you can choose a specific team, and then you can also choose a specific opponent. So you can say, how are the Fever doing against whatever team, and then you can evaluate based on that. So I think that's super valuable. But for here, I go to stats, and then stats, and I go to here, lineups on the left, and then I do advanced, and here it's just kind of strange how, advanced. So for here, I'm going to leave it 2024 season, all teams, 5-player lineups, but I have so here you can't see, but it's an advanced filter, and then I'm going to add a custom filter, and you can see what I'm doing, but I'll explain. So I do a minutes, and I do more and then I do 40 minutes. And why do I do more than 40 minutes? Because you can then evaluate a lineup that has played at least a full WNBA game on the court, right? With the combination of minutes, they've combined for 40 minutes, and that's a good, I think, in my opinion, a good solid number to evaluate whether a lineup is good or not. So, and then I'm just going to run it. If we go based on net rating alone, meaning the overall effectiveness, essentially just how much better or worse a lineup is than another, when they're on the floor for 100 possessions. So here, in a 48-minute, so if we look at the first one, in a 48-minute sample size, this Connecticut Sun lineup outscored, so per 100 possessions, were better than their opponent by 45, right? Because they scored 108 points per 100 possessions, and they only allowed 69 and a half points per 100 possessions in 48 minutes. That is insane, right? That's just flat out crazy that this lineup was this effective. Let's take a look at the second and third lineups here. This is for the entire WNBA, right? I didn't select any particular teams, just for WNBA. and here just tells you. So it's interesting as well that this lineup, which was the best Fever lineup last year, of course, right behind, not by much behind the Temi Bentley lineup, but this one with Dantas, these 5 players all remained on the roster. So no other players, right? So this is it. No other players outside of these 5 remain from that 2024 team. And that makes me happy because um, I don't know if I'll tag any of the videos here, but I was like, this is the lineup they should play on the fourth quarter. I just kept asking for that. And actually, I can show you the fourth quarters and why they were so effective in the fourth quarter as well. Because you can do that. You can search for fourth quarter specifically. But of course, here I have to do, instead of minimum 40 minutes, 30 minutes. So we can do 30 minutes instead. Let's see. So net rating in fourth quarters, this lineup was also second best in the WNBA with a net rating of plus 32.4. So again, but look at this in fourth quarters, and now this is 31 minutes. So this is not. I mean, these are like 3 games worth of fourth quarters. I'm imagining 3 different opponents as well. So this is not a fluke. An offensive rating of 127.9, meaning you were scoring 128 points per 100 possessions and only allowed 95 points per 100 possessions. That is insane. And then if you look at pace here, 103.65. This lineup specifically played with pace, which one of the and again, I mean, when you do these things with the eye test, you look at Dantas and you're like, well, she's a little overweight, or she's not moving on the court the way that she should. But what she does is that she opens the floor. Like now, it's so they call it spread 4, but everything's spread, right? Maybe the only person that can't hit threes consistently in this lineup is Aaliyah Boston. But she's dangerous in many different facets, right? She's like equivalent of a Draymond Green. Like you have Draymond Green and Caitlin Clark as Steph Curry, surrounded by Mitchell, Hull, and Dantas, which is 3-point shooting all over the place. Now there's just so much room to attack in whatever way you want to. You can get to the basket, you can hit the open shooter. Like it just allows for so much more flow and ease for Caitlin Clark to just run rampant. That's what this lineup allows. But I just wanted to highlight this because of the value that Dantas provides and how effective she was in playing with the 4, the Mitchell, Hull, Boston, Clark, specifically those lineups. She didn't do too well when paired with Nalissa Smith. Like, say, instead of Boston, she was playing with Nalissa Smith and the rest of those 3, those lineups were terrible. She didn't do too well playing with Temi Bentley, like Dantas and Bentley with Mitchell, Clark, and Hall. Those lineups were bad as well. Because the key component, I mean, all 5 of them work together perfectly, right? But that's just how key of a component Boston is, that Smith doesn't do what Boston does. In fact, Bentley doesn't do what Boston does. Like there are some subtle things that Boston brings to this team, and how she enhances some of these lineups to allow for other players to also be great. Right? Those are some of the things that we don't see with Boston. But anyways, let's get to the projections. Before we get to the projections, another thing that I wanted to do, just how much more Dantas enhanced the offensive rating, but then how much more Temi Bentley enhanced the defensive rating. Meaning that this is the situation in which you're going to utilize Damiris Dantas for when you need an offensive spark, and when you're going to need Brianna Turner if you need defensive stops. So that's why, to me, they're going to be used interchangeably depending on matchups and depending on how the game is going. So let's look at the projections. And for as much of a fan I am of Damiris Dantas, and for as much as I would love for her to play 30 minutes or 20 plus minutes, that's just not feasible. So as we look at minutes, right? So Damiris Dantas The most minutes that she's ever played in her career was in 2020, which was which was a COVID year where I don't think the league didn't play that much. But she played 26.6 minutes per game in 2020 with Minnesota, with the Minnesota Lynx. The next year in 2021, she played 23.8 minutes per game, and in both 2020 and in 2021, she was primarily used as a starter. Now, as a starter for a pretty good Minnesota team. So the last year that she played in the WNBA before going to Indiana was 2022 with Minnesota. She also started all 15 games, but her minutes per game were down. She was at 17 and a half minutes per game. So last year was 10.5 points. That's or 10.5 minutes per game. That's the lowest that she's ever had in her career. She had never played less than 13.4 minutes per game for the Atlanta Dream back in 2018. So I do think that these numbers between Brianna Turner and Damiris Dantas are going to be a bit similar. So whenever Damiris Dantas plays, it's going to be about 15 minutes per game. Because to me, like I said in the Brianna, if you missed the Brianna Turner video, I pretty much said that I think for the games, like if you're going with a game plan, depending on matchups, so say you play the New York Liberty, then the coaching staff game plan might already be Brianna Turner's playing. It's going to be the person coming off the bench against the Liberty, just so that she can guard Brianna Stewart, right? She can be the assignment on Brianna Stewart, and that be the focus, trying to stop instead of trying to focus on trying to outscore the Liberty. The focus being, let's see if we can withstand or minimize their best player. Same whenever they play the Las Vegas Aces, right? So the game plan whenever they play A'ja Wilson may be Brianna Turner is going to be the one getting the bulk of the minutes off the bench, because Wilson will probably have a field day with Damiris Dantas. So why do that when you have a game plan and you have a player that can at the very least make it tough for A'ja Wilson to get going, right? I mean, if you look back, A'ja Wilson struggled the most against the Chicago Sky, and I'm not necessarily saying that it was because of Turner, but Turner is similar to the Cardosos and the Angel Reese that make shit hard for other players. So in those matchups, it benefit. I don't think Dantas is not necessarily playable in those matchups when you have these bigs that are highly skilled and can eat you alive. When you're not playing against those teams and you can just outscore them, be like, all right, let's go on a who can score more points, which is every game, right? But let's just shoot out. Then that's when Damiris Dantas comes in, and when you don't need Brianna Turner because she doesn't help you in spacing out the floor and everything like that we talked about a little bit earlier. So when she plays, I think 15 minutes is fair. Some playing time in the second quarter, some playing time in the fourth quarter is what I would suspect. But field goal attempts, so in 10.5 minutes, she got off 3.7, which felt like more, right? Because she never really, from my perspective, she was never hesitant or afraid to take shots. Like she'd take them. She wasn't like, oh, should I take it? She'd take the shots. So I'm surprised to see that per game. I mean, in 10 minutes, she got, I mean, that's still a lot for 10 minutes, 3.7. Let's see, that was also her lowest in her career, 3.7. So, I mean, if she plays 15 minutes, that's 5 minutes more. You can say that maybe she'll take 5. Because the Fever will probably need her to take about 5 field goal attempts. And then field goal percentage, I think about the same as this. Her field goal percentage for her career is 43%, so like 42.6% for her career. She did really well last year because she didn't have a bulk, right? Like she didn't have to create her own shots and all that all the time. She can, but she didn't have to. And in this season, she's gonna be set up all the time, so she's gonna have a lot of good looks. So I think this is gonna be similar to her time with the Minnesota Lynx, and she had 46. Let's do 46 3-point attempts. The most 3-point attempts that she's taken in a year was 4.3 with Minnesota in 2021, and then in 2022 she took 4.1. So for like from 2019, actually her whole time that she was in Minnesota from 2019 to 2022, she was taking tons of 3 point shots. I mean, she was averaging 4.2 3 pointers per game, but of course she had tons of minutes. But even in the season that she for Minnesota that she only played 17 and a half minutes per game, she still managed to shoot 4 threes per game. So I think she'll take three 3 point attempts per game, which is a lot. Well, let's do 2.5. Let's do 2.5. That was a lot. That was a lot. So she shot 39% last year. She's shot 43% before, so she's lethal from three. But she's a career 34.5% 3 point shooter. So let's say 37, 3 or something like that. Or 4. Yeah, let's do that. I think that's good. The Fever will be happy with that output. Free throw, she doesn't go to the line that much. That's not her thing. No, that's not her thing. She averages for her career 1 free throw attempt per game. So I think that's about right. Okay, free throw percentage for her career. She's much better than this number last year. There was a season in 2015 with the actually she took about 3 free throw attempts per game in 2015. This is a long time ago, but she shot at 97% from the free throw line. And in 2015 overall, 97% from the free throw line, which is crazy, but that's not normal. In 2022, 83%, but like I said, career 78%. I'll say more like 75%. 75% for 3 rebounds. So she's a career 4. For her career 4 rebounds per game. I'll compare this to her last year in Minnesota, 2022, where she played the 17 and a half minutes I said. There she collected about 4 rebounds per game. So let's say at least 3 rebounds per game. Assist. This is not her thing either. She averages about 1.5 assists for her career per game. And in 2022, 1.9 assists. So maybe 1 assist per game. Steals, she averages for her career 0.5, not her strength. So maybe same as a little bit more than last year if she's getting more playing time. Blocks, not her strength either. She's not a crazy defender. 0.3 is what she averages for her career, so 0.3. And it's also what she had last season and what we'll project. Turnovers, she doesn't turn over a lot either. 1.1 turnovers for her career. If she sees more playing time, maybe she'll have more turnovers. 4.5 last year. If we say that she's going to have 5 field goal attempts, half of those being threes, she could do 7. Let's do 6.5. We can do 7. 7 points per game. I mean, I think she's going to average more than Brianna Turner, like by quite a bit. I think I can project 7 points per game for Damiris Dantas. Here's the other thing too. Like, I expect tons of blowouts for this team. So in garbage time, Damiris Dantas may see a lot more minutes. In garbage time, Brianna Turner may see a lot more minutes. So this may all be skewed just depending on the fact that maybe starters are going to be resting because they're going to be ahead by so many points. And then usage percentage, she averages about 18.2 usage for her career. Last year, 19.3 was actually one of the highest in her career, which is interesting. And I think it'll be something similar, but a little bit less. Again, last year's team was very flawed. This team is just going to be, to me, more structured. So she's not going to need to scramble as much. So I think about 18.5. In contrast this with Turner, right? Tells you that on the offensive end, Damiris Dantas is just a lot more active and relied upon. And then offensive rating, defensive rating. For her career, she's 103 and 102. In her time in Minnesota, she was a machine. Especially in 2020, she was 114, 104. So something like that is what I'm. 114 offensive rating. Actually, I mean, she had that. Let's do 118. And then defensive rating about 100. And no awards because coming off the bench, which she surely going to do. There's no way she starts. There's no debate here. We can debate. Maybe there's a little bit of a debate. I think there's a 90% chance the starting lineup is what we've already talked about and everybody knows, right? 90% chance that's the starting lineup. There's a 5% chance that instead of Howard, maybe Sophie Cunningham. And there's a 5% chance that instead of Howard, Lexi Hall. But that's just my probabilities in my head as to what's going to happen. But 0% chance Damiris Dantas starts. And whether she plays is 50-50. So I just don't think there's any awards. No most improved player, no sixth player of the year, no all-star. Not that she's not capable. She's just not going to have the opportunity. It's just too stacked of a team. But yeah, those are my number projections for Damiris Dantas. I'm a huge fan of hers. I think she's an excellent basketball player. I know she's killing it overseas. But again, the overseas competition not the same as WNBA competition. So some people go crazy out there, and it just doesn't. A lot of times doesn't really quite translate to the WNBA. But still, no. She, regardless of where she plays, she's absolutely skilled. She's an offensive, massive weapon. Um, she, I mean, she does all the things right on offense, and she can kind of hold her own on defense. She's not like a crazy liability, but Stewart will dominate her and just make things easy, and AJ Wilson will dominate her as well. Even Nafisa Collier, who, maybe she shouldn't be guarding her at all. The problem is Collier presents so many issues for smaller guards like like maybe Lexi Hall is someone that matches as far as height, but for whatever reason, Collier just seems way taller than Hall. So someone like Brianna Turner can come in and guard Nafisa Collier. The Brittany Griner trying to get rebounds, all these things. That's when you need Brianna Turner instead of Damiris Dantas. So it's just recognizing that so that you can continuously deploy the best optimal lineups for any given matchup. But I think for the minutes that she's gonna be given, she's gonna be great, right? Like while people are resting, like your top players are resting, Damiris Dantas is. I mean, there's no break. That's the thing with opposite teams. What they're gonna find is that there is absolutely no break on this team, on this lineup, on these rotations. Like it's just coming at you, coming at you, coming at you. Great player after great player coming off the bench. It seems unfair to me, but that's what I think about what Damiris Dantas is going to do. I'm so happy though, and so glad that she's still part of the team. Like it really does. I don't know. I was stoked when I found out that she's still gonna be a member of the Fever, just with the amount of people that they kind of let go or either traded or didn't want back, and that the organization so far has committed to Damiris Dantas, and she's gonna be part of the future, not super future, but part of this at least 2025. That's awesome, and I'm here for it. And when she gets in there, she's gonna be great. But let me know what you think. What do you think Damiris Dantas is? How's she gonna look this year? What her role probably is gonna be, or what her numbers maybe as well. I'm curious to know your input as well. And once again, just want to plug in that if you enjoy this type of content and you want to see more, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. That way you're alert and you can see when my videos are coming out, especially with these type of analysis and projections. So again, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.